From Sam Smith, it's called Diamonds, and Rikki Lambert joins me in the studio. There'll be more diamonds being worn in Cabinet after the reshuffle. Rikki, how did you see Scott Morrison? Well, he's thrown out the men and he said more women needed.
Scott Morrison, he's like he's backing up the truck with the beep beep noise, trying to get out of this situation, and he just can't back up far enough. No matter what he does, the mob won't be happy.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about John's article from this morning that I read earlier, and from our Flow News 24 webpage, you can actually read this article. He says, the desires of special interest groups are insatiable in the short term. If a concession is made, it is always followed by a desire for more. Are we in that place right now where Scott Morrison is continually finding the women in his party to put into portfolios because he's been pressured by the press to do that rather than putting the best person in the role and governing for the sake of the country?
Well, at the moment, the Prime Minister's governing for the mob. We've seen this at the cricket. You know, they'll call out, Warnie, give us a wave. And Warnie gives them a wave and say, Warnie, give us a thumbs up.
Yes.
Warnie, flash us something. You know, it just never stops. They constantly, the mob wants more entertainment, and they want more blood in this case, which is the blood of political men who are in the Parliament and wants them out of Parliament, and they want to replace them with women. That's what the mob's baying for right now.
And the question that gets put again for Scott Morrison as the Prime Minister is, in this situation, could he have gone out and said, I'm not going to put more women in places, I'm simply going to balance it up with the best person for this role because he's had this degree in this particular area, he's worked in this particular industry for 14 years and so on. Would that have been a better way to go, or do you believe that he's now governing for the media?
I think he is. John McDonnell makes a good point about Christian Porter, for instance. Porter was a good placement in Attorney General. Now he's the Minister for Industry and Science, and Karen Andrews comes out of that. John says she's done a good job. So there's an element to which if you're a football team, you're playing players out of position because they're just not the best player for that position at the moment. It's more so about appeasing what the crowd is yelling. They want, Paddy Dangerfield to play at full back. They want Lance Franklin to play in the centre in the ruck because that looks better and it's more entertaining, but I don't know if it's the best lineup for the PM right now.
I think maybe what he does need is a practice match or two for Paddy Dangerfield to play in, as we heard a bit earlier. Let's go to the next point. Labor can strike from here and can see very, very good policy positioning that they can put to the people right when Morrison's in a chaotic situation. The polls indicate on two-party preferred that Labor's drawn ahead over this latest 6-week scandal in Parliament House. At the same time, now we've got a policy position from Mr Albanese for the first time in the last 2 years since we've had him as the leader, since the Bill Shorten era, and it's on manufacturing. So take us through what this policy is and how you see this unfolding.
Yeah, I think popcorn sales have gone through the roof in Canberra. The Labor Party's been able to sit back and eat popcorn and let the media do their job for them. And now they are ahead on a two-party preferred basis. And it is good to see some policy from Labor, and particularly one in this instance is not only about building our manufacturing base, but also focusing on regional jobs, regional manufacturing. And they've said support for the agriculture sector. Really like to see that come through in actual policy fruition. And maybe the coalition will actually mirror that to try and head off this initiative, because there will need to be a reconstruction effort. One of the new ministries is Minister Reynolds will be a Minister for Resilience or something like that. I think the government is trying to do this rebuild plan, but I think Labor's captured a great initiative here in saying, well, we need an investment fund to invest in Australian manufacturing.
And certainly, Mr Albanese wants to build trains here. He says even a car should be built here. And
what a radical idea.
Shipbuilding should come back. I mean, are we going to see some money put back into places like Portland and Whyalla in those two locations, and maybe even back into Newcastle? Will we see the Albanese project so stymied by the price of power? Has he got a contradiction here that he wants to build manufacturing? He needs cheap energy to do it. The places where he can do that probably at best are locations which are already set up in some way for that type of manufacturing. Has he put himself into a corner to some degree, or are they Labor strongholds in regional areas anyway, and can he guarantee that he'll get some seat return for that?
I think it's definitely a pitch at consolidating or even gaining some regionally based seats where there was manufacturing previously, or that it's been downsized, or they've become what people used to call rust bucket areas. But I think, look, whatever the political motivation is, if we can be driving an investment in regional cities and regional towns to grow manufacturing, whatever the political motivation is, it's a good idea and we should be getting right behind it.
He's got the $15 billion that he says he will contribute from the federal government's reserves, and one would then suggest what private sector investment would come as a result of it. And I think that's where Mr Albanese is going to have to work on his pitch and on his program in order to find a way to ensure that there is private monies in food and beverage processing, particularly in regional areas. Can he get some like-for-like money invested? I think that's the key.
What they're creating is effectively a honeypot for investors to get behind. They're modelling it on the Clean Energy Finance Corporation that the coalition government have created, and the renewable sector has come right in and wanted to have a piece of that action with wind farms and batteries and solar farms and the like. So I think a $15 billion honeypot is going to be very attractive to people who like to partner with government to create new jobs, and hopefully it is a stimulus for us to manufacture more things in Australia.
Very interesting time for Scott Morrison and his government. I think the last 6 weeks has been a turning point, the wrong perhaps focus for the turning point. At the same time, we have many more women in cabinet, but are we going to get the policy that is going to be winning at the next election? And Albanese certainly put himself into place for that to occur, as we cover it here right on the Flow Morning Show.